Welcome to the Middle Age Podcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A., we're here with our final guest episode of the season, and we are joined by Saffron.
Indeed. Joining us. Hi. Joining us live from the other side of the world as well. So it's actually it's a red letter day for us because we've interviewed people in Europe. And we've now made it all the way to interviewing somebody who's in the USA. So that's a first for us, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
So wow.
Globe-trotting with the podcast. Well, unfortunately, I'm British. Not unfortunately, but I am British. So I've been imported into the USA just specifically for this podcast.
I was going to say, tell us about yourself, but you've kind of now introduced yourself, sort of the equivalent of that Sting song, wasn't it? Englishman in New York, and then now you're
Englishwoman in Texas.
Englishwoman in Texas. Slightly less well-known song, but maybe there's an option there. So yes, you're now obviously living in the States, and tell us a bit more about that. How long you've been there, and how you're finding that?
Yeah, so I moved here in March. It was a long time coming. It would have happened a lot sooner if it wasn't for the pandemic. I moved here because this is where my husband's from, and I thought, oh well, may as well just go and see what happens. It's been good so far. It's weirdly cold here today, so I'm sat under a blanket, but it's been swelteringly hot since we got married in May. But yeah, it's been interesting. I've been sort of keeping my head down, doing this project I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, and hoping that I don't have to get a real person job. So I'm trying to create my own little thing so I don't have to do a proper job. But yeah, it's been really fun. I haven't learned to drive out here yet. And my British license is expired, so I can't actually drive. So I get driven around everywhere, like the Queen, which is amazing. But I'm very fearful of the people who drive here because they drive like maniacs. And I've driven in Italy. And this is not like, it's not a race thing. This is a people drive crazy thing in Italy and also in Texas, apparently. So if you go anywhere, you fear for your life in the car. But yeah, apart from that, it's been fine.
I suppose it's also, if you're going to drive there, it is getting used to driving on the other side of the road. With the UK being one of a very small number of countries driving on the left, that is a completely different dynamic. And it's always something I know when I've travelled, I've always thought, not sure I could cope with trying to work that out, and so I don't end up making a mistake.
Yeah. Or because they have weird rules, like you can turn right at the traffic lights even if they're red, but only sometimes. And if you can or you can't, the sign's really tiny, but it's probably covered up by somebody's giant car. And people say everything's bigger in Texas, and they truly, truly mean it. You arrive and the flags are huge, the roads are huge, the cars are huge. Like everything is so stupendously massive, and then you'll see like a little Polo drive past, and it just is so tiny compared to everything else. It's so wild. So you feel like an ant here. I feel like an ant here. It's wild.
Out of interest, do you come across many other people from the UK in Texas?
I've one down the road. There's a British guy that lives around the corner from me.
Randomly, someone I work with who's British is married to a woman from Texas who now lives over here.
Weird. It's not such a small world. I mean, it is a small world. Oh my God. It is a small world. It's crazy. But yeah, I meet all sorts of people. I interviewed an author the other day. So he's from the US, his wife's from the US, and his character in his book was a taxi driver, and I was a taxi driver in Canterbury, and that's where I used to live. And this tiny town or tiny city in England, and I was like, "What is going on? Why do these people keep writing about my life?"
It's meant to be.
It is. It is so meant to be.
So obviously now living in the US, you've had Thanksgiving as we're now approaching Christmas. Yeah. How do you find Thanksgiving as a Brit?
Oh, it's a challenge. It's okay. I'll rephrase that. It's challenging to find things that I enjoy to eat. So my in-laws, well, my mother-in-law specifically, she's a very, very good cook. So if I know she's going to be listening to this, your food is absolutely delicious. But I'm not used to everything tasting so sweet. So whenever I this is like the third Thanksgiving that I've spent over here now. But this is the first one since I've lived here, and thankfully they don't do like the marshmallows on the sweet potatoes because that makes me feel unwell. But yeah, she cooks the best turkey and it's amazing. And this year it was really, really nice and cozy, and everyone was in a great mood and it was so nice. And I thought it was going to be like Friends, where we all ate so much that we couldn't move and then watched the Macy's Day Parade. That didn't happen. But other than that, it was quite good. It is very, very similar to watching TV. Like I call it cartoon food, because it's stuff that I've only ever seen in like The Simpsons or watching Friends. So it's like,
when you compared it to Friends, then I thought, was it going to be where what is it, the cottage pie or something? The shepherd's pie is mixed in with the trifle.
It's not that bad. No, it's good. It's good. No, it's just there was this dish that really took me by surprise, and it was called a Mrs. Prinzhorn salad. And I don't know if that's what it's actually called or if that's just someone they knew. It's not a salad. It's jelly and cream cheese and marshmallows and crushed pineapple and glacé cherries and whipped cream all mixed up, and it was like an Angel Delight and a blancmange had a baby, and then it had chunks in it. It was really weird. Oh, and mini marshmallows in this thing, and I was like, well, I'd have to try it. I didn't have to try it. I could have just looked at it. It was exactly as I thought it was going to taste. But yeah, that was strange. It's a weird cultural thing. But then when I make roast potatoes, everyone goes nuts because they don't normally have those here. So we do a little bit of a cultural exchange. I bring the savoury things, they bring the sweet things that are supposed to be savoury.
That's probably one of the most British things I've ever heard, where he just talks about all these different things and then gone, I'll bring the roast potatoes. That's just, something really
I have to. It was I'm going to make Yorkshire puddings soon. I think that's the next thing. But we're going to do a British Christmas on Christmas Eve, and my best friend is going to be coming over for the Christmas and New Year's period. So I've got somebody who knows what I'm talking about. So when I say, "Can you sort out the pigs in blankets?" they can wrap the sausages in bacon. Their pigs in blankets here are a lie. They are basically just like a weird sweet frankfurter with weird sweet bread around the outside.
I don't know what.
It's not even close.
I thought for a minute you were going to say it was actually pigs outside in blankets because they got a bit hot. So I thought you were going to go with that actually, rather than substituting.
Well, I just thought it was going to be one of those random. It's like how I don't think it maybe is completely like this, but to Brits, we kind of take it that anytime you watch an American show and they talk about a cookie, it's a biscuit. So anything is considered a cookie. But obviously we have biscuits, and biscuits mean something else over there. And when you were talking about pigs in blankets, I thought, yeah, it's gonna be some kind of strange take on it, because it's so many things that realistically the words are the same, but actually what they are just so different.
It's like when Saffron said about doing Yorkshire puddings, I don't know why, I've got this image that you're obviously going to make them, and there's going to be a sort of a sea of disappointed faces thinking they were going to be getting some kind of weird cake, you know what I mean, like an actual pudding of, covered in cream and all sorts, rather than what they will get. But I'm sure they'll love it nevertheless. Do you ever get kind of homesick, or do you ever think you'd consider returning to the UK, or do you think the US is for you?
I think it's too early for me to say whether or not I would go back. I don't think my husband would go back, so I think I'd probably only return if things went south. But no, I definitely want to spend extended time in the UK, and obviously we're confident enough in each other that I can just go for a month and a half or whatever, and it's fine, because we were separated during the pandemic, physically, not relationship wise, for 18 months. So I know that I can sort of hop around the world and it'll be fine, because technology is amazing. We're doing this now, it's incredible. And I think because I went through that with him and we made it out the other side with very little problems, in my mind, if I can make a romantic relationship work with technology, I can certainly do it with my family. So we have regular calls, and sometimes if it's somebody's birthday, we'll spend like the Sunday on Skype, and we'll put them on the big TV and we'll play games together and things like that. So you do quickly forget that you're not in the same room, and it isn't the same. It sucks, and you don't get to hug them when they're sad, and those moments are when I feel a bit like it hurts my heart a little bit because I can't hug people. Like my aunt and uncle had to put their dog down the other day, and I would have gone round there and took them something nice, and I can't do stuff like that. That hurts a lot. But I'm the kind of person, and it sounds really terrible, and I promise I love my family. Out of sight, out of mind. If I don't think about them, if they're not like right in front of me, it doesn't really enter my mind because I'm busy doing something else. So yeah, it's only in some moments.
Obviously, you're on the podcast today for us to talk about your
endeavours, I suppose, is one way. You've got various projects and things coming over the hill.
So yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about your writing. You're starting up a podcast as well quite soon. Could you just give us a little bit of an intro into sort of what's going on with both your writing side of things and the podcast that you're putting together, please?
Yeah, I mean, the writing side of it is going to be very short. So if I start from the beginning, it probably would make a little bit more sense to put it in context. So as I was approaching the time that I was going to move here, I thought, well, I'm not going to be allowed to work because of the green card process. So I thought, okay, what can I do? So my husband encouraged me to start writing the book that I've been talking about for a long time. Around the time that I decided to do that, a friend of mine from an old job that I had recently released their own self-published book, and they said, a bit of advice that I'd give anybody is before you finish your book is to find your community of people. Find the people that want to read your book before you've even finished it. And I thought, okay, well, I'll bite. Let's have a look at this. So I started an account on Twitter. I thought I was going to initially self-publish it. So I was researching, like, how do I do this? How do I get an agent? Blah, blah, blah. And I saw thousands and thousands and thousands of writers who had self-published or gone through indie presses. And I thought, okay, this is actually an achievable thing. Because I thought you used to have, I thought you were supposed to have like thousands of pounds or dollars or wherever you're from to put a book out there. I mean, really, you do if you're doing the marketing, that's a separate problem. But to actually get a book into people's hands doesn't cost as much money as I thought. So I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a viable option. So I've been writing this book, and I can tell you about it if you really want to know, but I've been writing this book, which is basically like a sci-fi thriller, which touches on the challenges with the advancement of technology, but also how one person's perception of a mental health crisis can look different from the inside than it does on the outside. So it's kind of a mixture of a lot of different things that mean a lot to me. So as I'm writing this book, I'm sort of contacting different authors and learning about them and their processes and their struggles. And the main thing that I saw was people really struggling to get people to read their book. So all I'm seeing is people going, please read my book. I'd love it if you read my book. This is my heart and soul, and I'm sharing it with the world and nobody's looking at it. And that hurt me so deeply because I just want people to succeed and I want people to do well. And I just had this weird thing in the back of my head that was like, what if you made it easier for people to market their books? So I just kind of started doing stuff. I wasn't really sure what I was doing at first, but I was like, well, this could just be a website, couldn't it? I could just find a group of people that are self-published or that, indie authors who go through small publishers who don't have the budget to do big marketing campaigns either, and give them a place where a reader can come and try and find their new favorite book. So that's kind of where it started, which has been a lot of fun. And it's made me really dive into the indie writer world, which is wild because I've been reading books I never would have looked at before because I'm getting to know the people and then I'm believing in the people. So I'm reading the book and thinking, oh my gosh, this is actually fantastic. Never would have read a romance book before, but here we are. I've read 10 of them now probably. And I've enjoyed all of them because I can hear the person reading it to me in my head, and I've heard their motivations and why they were inspired to do X, Y, Z and why they put this thing in to 7. And it's just been really, really rewarding to get to know everybody. Because if you look at Amazon, which is a fantastic tool, by the way, like there are people that make their living off of their book selling on Amazon. It's fantastic. But there are over 1 million self-published authors on there. How are you supposed to get people to look at your book? It's hard. And what do? You pay for an ad and then it goes to the top and then everybody's paying for an ad. So they're all at the top and now there's 1 million authors at the top and it's just the same, except Jeff Bezos gets a lot of money from it. And that's kind of what I wanted to avoid. So I've created this website that goes live on January 1st. It's called indiosyncrasy.com, and it's a place to find your new favorite book. So I've got a lot of indie authors on there, and they'll be building sort of as time goes on. I'll be adding more and more on there. I've got quite a few people on the wait list at the moment. I think 119 more authors to be added at the beginning of next year. You can see a little bit about them. You can find all their links. You can see their books and where to buy them. And I wanted to try and give people the experience that I've had, which is why I started Booked, which is the podcast that should be live by the time this episode goes out. So my idea is that we'll do something very much like this, where it's conversational and relaxed and fun, where people can get to know the author and then find out a little bit more about the creative process. So those two things go hand in hand. So Booked is like the child podcast of Indiosyncrasy, except it's coming first. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on.
I think it's really interesting. I'm sitting here listening to you talk. I was talking about it and the thought process, because one of the things that you're quite right around, certainly people who already have a platform. There's an awful lot of people, whether it's the UK or the US or elsewhere, involved in writing books, often who already have a platform of celebrity or some, and got a massive head start, irrespective of whether or not their books actually are even as good as some of the independent authors, and and they may be or they may not be, but they just get that start because they've got a profile already. And you're right, it's how do you build a profile as somebody who's got none of the resources to, like you say, spend phenomenal amounts of money on advertisement, promotional material, which some of these people have got contracts with big publishers and things like that. So it is an interesting outlet. And how do you also get to know the person? Because sometimes if you think about on the celebrity side or the people with the more famous side, you've got an insight into those people. So when they say, I've written a book, you can go, oh, know who that is and whatnot. So it is interesting that then you give this platform to people. If people then obviously listen to that, they get to hear people whose voice would not be heard. And I know that's been one of the things we talked about with the podcast. We've been obviously interviewing people who are not famous, but who still have really interesting life stories to tell. People feedback that they've enjoyed listening to that. And it's something you'd never hear. So it is great to hear something like this that hopefully will give, I guess, more of a bit of a voice and a platform to people who would ultimately really struggle to get one, I suppose. And I think that's one of the things in terms of what I've seen of you, on social media, which can be a negative place. You seem to have been a very positive force on there. So then putting that into doing something like this does seem like a great thing to do. I mean, what's sort of been your experiences with the writing community on social media?
I think largely because of the way that the algorithms work through social media, you kind of attract what you give out and you attract what you let in. And obviously you're going to find negative people. Obviously, that's just part of life. You're going to find it wherever you go, whether it's real life or on the virtual world of social media. But I found that just by being nice to people, they respond to it nicely. And if people are mean to me, I just go bye and block them, because there's just no point. I don't want to give them my energy. I remember posting, I can't remember what it was. It was from the writing community, even though it's nothing to do with writing, but it was someone whose book I was reading at the time. I said, oh no, I've got COVID. And then for some reason out of nowhere, they said, that's what you get for not getting the vaccine. I have had the vaccine. Where did that come from? Nobody asked you. It was really weird. So I stopped writing their book. I was petty. I stopped reading the book. But it was just that there are such a small pocket of people that aren't particularly nice, and you're going to get people who, and if you're interested in getting into the writing community on Twitter or wherever, that's the only one that I have real experience with is Twitter. There is such a huge group of nice people, and they're so kind and so helpful. And if you ask for feedback, they'll give you proper feedback, and they're not just like, oh, this is crap or whatever. But just be mindful of who you let in. And you also have the issues with all the marketing scammers, which is something that I've really had trouble with convincing people that I'm doing something nice, because it sounds like a scam because it's free. So I've not asked authors for anything from this other than a bit of time, which I appreciate is worth money, and people's time is very valuable, and I appreciate that. But I've not asked them for a penny, so they get an author feature for life, or as long as I can keep affording to have the website. And I don't plan on charging them anything, because what's the point? Like, writers are not the ones with the money. It's the big companies that are taking the money from the authors that have the money. So I wanted to find a place where everyone was on the same playing field and we should take down the paywalls. And that is another thing about social media as well, is that people do get a better response if they pay money for a subscription. I paid money for the premium subscription on Twitter, and it was, I hate to say it, worth the money, which is not right. I've cancelled the subscription now just because out of principle. But yeah, it's a pay to play game, and it shouldn't be. Art is for everybody, and people shouldn't have things between them and getting to a good book. So yeah, largely positive is the short answer to the very long way that I answered that question.
No, it's interesting because you mentioned obviously the community, that you found the writing community and the positivity that they bring. And we've noticed as well with the podcasting, the independent podcasting community, we've received so much support from people. And actually, at the start of this season, we spoke to Dan from Casting Views and had a really good conversation with him about podcasting. And I've recorded an episode of his podcast that's going to go out, I think, early next year now. And it's been really good connecting with people who are very like-minded and trying to not only get their own voice heard out there, but also supporting other people. And we have found that that's been, like we say, social media can sometimes be so negative, and you'll see, like the example that you gave, someone would make a comment without actually knowing you or without any sort of thought behind the context or anything. But there are a lot of voices out there that are very positive, and it's good that those people are there helping to raise communities up online.
I suppose to some extent, even though the online thing, obviously, to some degree, you think might make it more difficult to decide or find out whether somebody is genuine or not at times. But actually, that's also the same to some degree, even in real life. Because you do meet people who do not present, or they pretend. They still get scammers in real life. You know, it's not just people online, is it? So there's always that balance. I think the sad thing is if people completely shut everybody out, that's where it's nice to see a breakthrough where you know, you can communicate with people, and the technology allows you to contact people all over the world, and you can connect with people who you'd never connect with, and there are genuine people there. But you're right. I mean, the book marketing scams that dear me. I mean, that's just. It seems never ending. But the advice I offer on that is that take them down a route of, have you ever thought about going onto a commission-only basis, like a lot of salespeople? And that ends it very, very quickly, because despite the fact they're the most successful people of all time, with access to millions of people with 12 followers, which is always the other thing. Right? Despite that, when you actually say, well, surely, rather than, you know, a payment system of commission where if you're this good, you sell this many books, you're going to make way more money, they just disappear. And then sometimes they'll taunt you with nothing comes for free in life. Like, no, thanks for that. It's guaranteed money back. Yeah, but how would you ever guarantee getting your money back once you've run off with it? You know,
honestly,
they're great, aren't they? It's quite funny.
I've had some feedback from people who don't immediately know me online. So obviously I've got my sort of group of people who are always there. They're always cheering me on and reposting and commenting and stuff. So they've followed me along from the moment where I was like, I might do this thing, and now I'm doing this thing. And I've had feedbacks along the lines of, this feels a little bit scammy. And I'm like, because it's free, because I'm being nice. Like, what is the scammy part? I'm literally posting pictures of the close up of my face and being goofy and being silly because I'm trying to humanize myself, because it's so hard to when you're online as well. But yeah, it's been, I found that letting people come to me has been the answer. So rather than being like, hey, do you want to be a part of this thing? I've said, if anyone wants to be a part of this thing, email me or send me a message or whatever it is. Because then they can take the chance. And I've had, with the first group of authors, I won't be able to do this with everybody, but I've had intro calls, which, as you know, we did that before, just so you can see I'm a real person and I care and I'm trying to do something nice. And that's kind of the crux of it, is I'm just trying to be nice because life is crap and you've got to just spread some nicety. And I'm not all sunshine and roses all the time. I'm a grumpy bastard a lot of the time, but I do really love people. So I just want them to do well.
I mean, I think we've said that during the podcast at times, haven't we? You know, you kind of, you have these sort of discussions and conversations and things, and it goes out there and people listen to it. And again, it's nice when people then feedback and say, oh, listen to that and really, really enjoyed that or found that useful, or even the people we've interviewed who thought they might not make good guests sometimes have actually then taken something from it. So you're kind of enriching life to some degree, where the monetary side of it isn't then the big thing. I mean, obviously, in terms of trying to get people's books out there and sold more, is obviously a side to it. But in terms of the actual processes of communicating with people and doing the podcast and all these things, it is nice just to have a positive influence on things and do things that, you wouldn't do, I suppose. I think that's probably been one of our takeaways. You think about the conversations that we've had with people who just wouldn't have those at all without having sort of had a go at doing something. I mean, we do get slightly jealous when we're reading about various people making hundreds of thousands of pounds a month podcasting. It's like, wow.
Especially when one of them is Richard Osman, who's also an author. Wow.
Poor Richard Osman is literally getting constantly mentioned by us, I think, in terms
He's on my pod as well. People keep mentioning him on my podcast as well. They're like, how come his books are selling well and mine aren't?
Sorry, I thought for a moment you meant you were having him on your podcast. I was like...
Well, I don't think he's self-published, otherwise I would have asked him.
He has sold over 10 million books now, I believe.
I reckon I could help him get more sold. Honestly. Oh, I was, I'm pretty sure I can say this. I'm not going to say who it is just in case it doesn't go through, but I was approached by a small publisher because I partnered with the Small Speculative Book Award, SSBA, which has just been started very, very recently. So it's going to be the first year. So it's where publishers or independent publishers can put forward their books that are on their books. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. That are in the horror, sci-fi and fantasy category. And so through that, I had a publisher reach out to me with an author that would like to be put onto Indiosyncrasy, who was a writer for BBC Radio Comedy, and Horrible Histories. So that's nice. That'll be fun. Keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to tell you their name in case it doesn't go through.
What, want to check for our legal department? Rich?
Well, now the check by our legal department. Okay.
Well, we've varied that at times. But yeah, I'll leave that one to you. Oh dear. So the website ultimately is going to be going live on the 1st of January 2025. So, I mean, how can people connect with and support you in this journey?
So there are lots of different ways. As of the 1st of January, you can go to www.indiosyncrasy.com, and I can also put the link out on social media. It's probably on my bio on Twitter. If you wanted to contact me directly, I'm fairly approachable. Just don't ask me if I want my books to be sold to millions of people, because I won't answer the DM. But you can find me on Twitter at Saffron Asteria, which is Asteria. Yeah. Oh, and you can also find my podcast Booked, which will be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for the time being anyway, because I'm not a technophobe. I'm just not very organised. So those will be the 3 places that you'll find it. So that's Booked, all capital letters. But yeah, that's kind of where you can find me.
Fantastic. And what would you say success with Indiosyncrasy and Booked would look like for you?
If one person other than the people I know directly experiences it and either finds their new favourite author or just enjoys an episode or finds a writing tip from there, then it's been a success. Quite honestly, I'm not doing this for the money. If it makes money and it means that I can do that as a job, I would love to do that, because I would really, really genuinely enjoy supporting people for a living. But I just want people to feel seen in a world where it's difficult to be heard. So as long as somebody feels nice, then I've done it. I've won. So
now you're getting to obviously the podcasting and whatnot, and welcome to broadcasting, because we feel like we're taking it relatively seriously, aren't we? To be fair, sometimes in terms of our approach, as if we were really professionals when blatant that we're not. But
you are professionals. Look at you doing it.
We do give it a real go. But how have you found that experience, actually kind of doing the recording and the interviewing?
It's been a lot of fun, actually. I think I've had 8,000 other jobs in my life. I'm only 30 and I've been working since I was 15. So I've tried everything apart from candlestick making, but everything else I've done it. So through those jobs, I've had to do things like interviewing. I used to be a trainer. I used to train chefs. I used to have to record conversations for apprentices. So I used to teach chefs like practical and theory stuff, and then we had to sort of record like a diary. And I've just been treating it like that, and it's been a lot less scary. I have been recording my intro separately because I can't say it without stuttering. So I'm like, okay, I'm giving myself a lot of editing to do, basically, and I'm making it very hard for myself because I'm full of nerves. And then I hit the record, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now it's time to perform. I have found myself struggling to find new stories to tell. So I've told like the same ones in every episode. And I've also been doing it really far in advance. So I've recorded enough episodes to last me until probably May, because I wanted to give a lot of time and concentration to the website and making sure that goes well. So I thought if I have some in the bank, then I'll be able to sort of just have that ticking along in the background. I've also found it hard to prioritize people because I want to interview everybody, but I also only want to put out one episode a week. So I've got probably an unlimited number of potential guests because people keep asking me and emailing me and messaging me asking to be guests, and I want to say yes to everybody. But that's been the most challenging thing, I think, in this whole thing, is being able to be like, okay, no, I'm sorry, I haven't got space for you. And it hurts because I want to help everybody. So maybe I'll do mini episodes at some point. But I think doing it in quick succession has actually been very, very helpful for my confidence, because I'm like, okay, we're in a groove now and we're doing stuff and this is cool and this is just the way it's going to go. But yeah, it's been a hell of a lot of fun, definitely. A lot of fun. But it's not gone live. As the point of we're recording it right now, it hasn't gone live. So I might be able to give you a small soundbite to overlay into this going, it's all gone wrong, everything is on fire.
It's all going to be fine.
It's all going to be fantastic.
I am looking forward to listening to the first one. At time of record, well, I think we can say at time of recording is due to go out tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, it is. My stomach just dropped. Yeah.
So I hope that's okay for me to say that, with the continuity. But yeah, when they said episode goes out, it should have been live for a couple of weeks. Be interested to hear that. And again, I think, like you said, to listen actually to then you interviewing another author, obviously from a personal perspective as well, be interested in listening to that. So as far as your writing is concerned, then, are you still hoping to finish that book?
Yeah, it's taken a backseat at the moment because I can only concentrate on one thing at once. Otherwise, I'll crawl into a ball and never wake up. So I like to have lots of plates spinning, but in the same category. So at the moment, I'm like podcast, website, making sure I eat enough and drink enough caffeine, and then all of those things. That's enough. I can't think about anything else. So with the book, it's stuck at chapter, I don't know, 15 or something. And I know how it ends. I just have this big section of probably 7 or 8 chapters where I'm basically taking these people to go and meet lots of different people and give their perspective of an event that happened earlier on in the book. So it's a lot of brain power, and I can't spend that at the moment. So yeah, I do plan on finishing it, but God knows when that's going to happen. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, I know the challenge all too well. So yeah, and it is when you've got lots of different things going on, balancing and prioritizing things is always a challenge. What are your plans outside of Indiosyncrasy and Booked? What other plans for the future have you got?
Taking over the world. No, I'm kidding. Do you know what? I've not thought that far yet. I go through phases of being overly confident and then thinking I'm a piece of shit, basically. So sometimes I wake up and I'm like, this is going to go nowhere. I don't know why I'm doing this, sort of waste of time. And not because of the people that are involved, it's because of me and my own insecurities. And then sometimes I wake up and I think, oh God, I can't wait to wake up and know that I'm being paid to do this as a job. So I get more of those days than I do of the sad days. And I do think that if you really put your everything into something, then it will be your version of success. So what that looks like, I don't know, but I think I don't want to give myself an option B, and I want to say that this is going to be the thing. this is going to be the thing I'm doing, because I have a terribly awful personality trait where if I have an easier option, then I'll just do that because I'm tired or lot. I'm a very sleepy girl. If I have an option to not try hard, then I will, and I don't want to give myself that option because I know what I'm like. So at the moment, this is the plan.
That is interesting you've mentioned that, because only this week I've watched it again, and I watch it sporadically, is the Arnold Schwarzenegger motivation video. I don't know if you've ever seen it, if you've watched it.
No, but I do love him.
It's a great one. He did a speech 5-6 years back now, but that went massive, where he talked about his life and his career. And what you've just said, weirdly, is one of the things he says in it, which is about he hates plan B. He likes to have that you focusing on something and getting all your attention into that to make it a success. Rich is looking at me really at the moment as if to say, don't you dare do another Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
Please don't.
Please do, did you say?
No, please don't.
Please don't. Okay. I won't.
He's now fighting the urge.
Fighting the urge now. Especially you just don't do it. Don't do it. Sorry?
The scenes, you're like, oh, come on, it's coming out.
No, I won't, because it will spoil the point I was making. He actually says that as like one of his guiding things. The fact you just said it really reminded me of that. So I think you've found something that you've got your passion in that you're going to do, and if you do put all that attention in what you've been doing even so far, about I suppose how far forward you've taken it already.
Yeah, I definitely it's gone. It's escalated very quickly, to the point where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. It'll be fine. I feel like because I'm one human, and I keep reminding people I'm one person. If I forget to email you back, it's because I'm forgetful. I could be surrounded at any one time with 7 dirty mugs because I keep forgetting as I walk past them. I go, I should probably take those downstairs. I don't stop to pick them up. So it's the same with emails and work-related tasks. But yeah, I think it's important to have a purpose in life, and I meet people all the time that don't have a purpose. And your purpose can be getting up and feeding the dog every day. It doesn't have to be this big lofty thing, but everybody has their own 100% that they give every day, and it doesn't always look the same as everybody else's. And sometimes you don't have that 100% when you wake up. So
he also says that. It's unbelievable. You're going to have to watch this video. He also says you have to have.
I'm not seeing it.
Literally, yeah. Arnold, she's not stealing from you. She's just coming at it with the same mindset. But it's just really interesting that you're saying such similar things to what he says. You've got to watch that video now.
What I'm hearing is that we need to do a film called Triplets, where me, Arnie, and Danny DeVito. We're triplets. Nobody can see this on the pod because this isn't going to be a video, but I don't know if you can see. I absolutely love Danny DeVito.
Oh yeah!
Wow!
Oh my word! Yeah, that's a great twins. We are big fans of.
Oh yeah, film. That's one of our quotable.
Don't get us started on that.
Start telling you all the rules of a crisis situation.
Yeah, Rich will go through that. The rules of the crisis situation. He loves that one. But that was a great film, wasn't it? Yeah, Danny DeVito.
I'm a big DeVito fan. I sobbed when Steve Irwin died. I'm gonna sob when Danny DeVito dies. Hopefully he'll live forever. I've got hope. We have the technology. I'm hoping that we'll just give him an exoskeleton and make him keep working because I love him.
Well, they've done a thing, haven't they? I don't know if you'd know about it, but you'll obviously know Michael Parkinson, I'd imagine. So they've actually done something now with AI where there's a podcast that's coming out, and Michael Parkinson is being brought back to life via AI for this podcast. Mm-hmm. They are doing episodes where he's interviewing modern day guests.
That's horrible.
And it's mad. It's absolutely crazy. There was something on the telly the other day. It's really strange.
Oh, it's sick. That's I've got mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, it's
mostly disgust. That's mostly
it's not a good thing at all. They were trying to rationalise it with some talk saying, well, imagine if you've got family members that have passed away and you can still talk to them and things. And I thought that's just going to cause even more kind of problems for people. I don't think it's a good thing at all.
That's weird.
You want memories, you don't want
episode for you.
I mean, I was saying, I know you probably won't be saying this again, but I was thinking about, in terms of when you're doing this, and these are all out there, aren't they? These interviews and stuff. I was like, I think I'm trying to say this brief, obviously, if and when we pass on, somebody can just go on and they'll be able to listen. That's quite an interesting thing. The idea, though, that we died and then somebody went, we want new content. So we're going to take AI from having used our recordings and then use that that was just weird to me in terms of like the Michael Parkinson thing. I just find that really such a strange situation, really. I mean, obviously, for the benefit, nobody would bother to do that with us at all.
You don't know. You don't know that.
But the point being, that is a bit weird, isn't it?
It is strange.
I think from the perspective of like, okay, if your loved ones wanted to see you do X, Y, Z, it's not you, it's just your likeness. And I think that something that's so uncomfortable for me about that particular situation is that he didn't do those interviews. No. He did do probably thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of interviews beforehand. Listen to those when he was actually alive, and that was him, and he was cognizant, and he was like, okay, so I'm thinking of these questions, I'm saying them, I'm laughing, I'm joking around with these people. That was the person that you lost and that you loved. So to bring them back from the dead for your own, I don't know, entertainment and to make money. I mean, I'm not saying that, I don't think his family's going to listen to this. They might do. And no offense intended if they do. But I don't know. I just don't think it means the same. But I suppose when people are grieving, they make weird decisions. And everybody processes it differently. And I'm sure everyone is going to feel differently. But my personal opinion is it's creepy. Very creepy. I wouldn't want to seem like that. Because I know it's not them.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's odd. And like you say, there's a massive back catalogue of his interviews that you can go and watch.
Just watch him.
Just watch him get attacked by Rod Hull and Emu.
Yeah, Rod Hull and Emu was the famous one where you maybe remember Rod Hull vaguely. That's one of the famous ones, isn't it? Yeah. And lots of other, where he did a lot of interviews with like Muhammad Ali and stuff like that. So some really good ones. But yeah. Well.
Yes, so we've come to the end of the interview now, Saffron. We have a tradition now here on the Middle Age Podcast. And that tradition is that our guests get to sign off the episode. So if you could please sign us off from today's episode.
I'd love to. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. It's been such a pleasure, honestly. I've really enjoyed it. Those 50-odd minutes have gone by so quickly. And it's been really, really nice to talk to you guys about the things that I care about. And it's been lovely just having a laugh and connecting on a human level. And I really, really appreciate that. So, yeah, thank you from all three of us for listening to this episode today. And hopefully you've enjoyed it and you've gotten something out of it. Thank you for listening to the Middle Age Podcast.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Farewell.